evening, sir.
Good evening.
I'm Fitzroy and you are?
I'm Norman Harris.
And where were you originally from, sir?
Originally from Jamaica.
Could you be more specific? Where in Jamaica are you from?
I was born in Kingston. I grew up in James Hill, Clarendon.
Do you care to share a bit of your story, as in your childhood story, with us?
Well, most of my childhood days were spent in James Hill until about the age 12, maybe 13, 14 to be precise, when I was then a little bit too old for my grandmother to care for and looked after, so she had believed it was a good idea that I moved to Kingston, and I joined my aunt who lived in Kingston and was working as a conductress in the Jamaica omnibus services. In Kingston, I attended Whitemall Primary School for most of my teenage years. At the age of 16 and a half, going 17 after independence, then I looked at other options. Academically, scholarships weren't available for us at the time. Thereafter, I considered options going forward as a teenager, and one of the opportunities that came was the opportunity to join the Jamaica National Reserve, which I did. I spent approximately 2.5 years with JNR, 3 JNR, and resigned at the end of the period to leave on the recommendation of my then company commander, who gave me the advice that I could make a very good soldier in the British Army. And so, with the help of my parents, I was funded, fully funded flight from Kingston to the UK, where I arrived in February 25th, 1965, just gone 18. And then I settled in Peckham, where I stayed for a period of time, having decided that I wasn't going to join the Navy, and instead I wanted to see what life was like around London. My first experience of life in the UK was arriving at the job centre and presented myself and said, I'm looking for a job. I was then asked, what's your qualification? I had none. And so they said, the only job that we can offer you, Mr. Harris, was a job in Peckham Rye Market as a sweeper.
Okay.
So I took the job and accommodated all the positivity of doing the job and got very friendly with all the shopkeepers. I believe I was well liked and kept the market in good order. And during this period, I was looking at where do I go from here. I had no intentions, certainly no intentions of going to night school. I had no intentions of working on the building sites, and I had no intentions of doing anything that I was stereotypically expected to do.
Okay.
So my intentions then returned back to the military, and I visited a demonstration being given by the Royal Artillery in Peckham Rye, and decided I walked through the door and I said I need to look at the options, and they gave me all the opportunities that the gunners had available. I signed up there and then, and officially signed up on the 29th of November 1965. Departed 1965 November to Oswestry, which is in North Wales, where I did my basic training, and then after doing basic training realized that I was in the wrong place, because the artillery is not the infantry.
Right.
And the only way I could change my career direction was volunteer for one of the two special forces that the Army had at the time, which is the 2nd Parachute Regiment, 7th Parachute Regiment, or 29 Commando Regiment. And I decided that I would choose 29 Commando Regiment, and arrived in Plymouth in December 1965 for my pre-commander course. There was 40 of us that started the course in Plymouth for the pre-commander training. And when we finished the 6-week beat-up course, there's only 3 of us that made it to the Royal Marine Commander Training Centre in Lympstone. And I arrived in Lympstone in January, the winter of January 1966, and spent time at the CTRM. Visited Dartmoor, where I've had some very, very cool experience, and to say nothing but the best came out of me in terms of survival. But there are moments when I wish I was back home. And I didn't let that overcome me, but I qualified and got my Greenberry at the end of January. And then I returned to my regiment, which then became my career for the next 7.5 years.
Okay.
Operationally, I joined them in June. I joined my battery in August. And 6 weeks later, I was in Mediterranean. I was based in Bahrain. And I spent Christmas up in Aden or southern Yemen at the time, and experienced my first active duty operational tour.
Okay.
And from there I did several tours to various countries, the Middle East, the Far East. I was based in the Far East, in Singapore for 2.5 years, during which time I did all sorts of things. I would box for the regiment, box for the army, ran for the regiment, ran for the army, did a little bit of singing. We had a regimental band.
Okay.
And then whilst I was in Singapore, I sort of entered a talent competition and came runner-up and was in a band in Singapore, performed in live on TV over there while I was still in the army. So it was all a big, enjoyable time for me. But then I was then given the opportunity to either stay in the army or leave the army and pursue a singing career.
Okay.
And then I decided, my friends were all going back, because this was one of the reasons why I joined the army, was for the camaraderie, the friendship, and the discipline that I prefer. Yeah. And so I decided, no, singing is not for me. I'm going back home to Plymouth. And that's what I did. I came back to Plymouth, got married, and then went back out on Mediterranean. During the tour of the Mediterranean, we had the misfortune of the government of Malta at the time decided that we weren't welcome anymore, and so we had to leave. And thereafter, I was then posted to Germany, and having arrived in Germany as a Lance Bombardier, I looked at the desire then to look at a career in a more structured manner, which meant that instead of just being a happy-go-lucky Lance Bombardier, I had to take it serious now and start looking at my career. And so the progression was rather rapid from there onwards. So I was basically 6.5 years as a gunner by choice. And then when I decided to make the army a career, I was given good guidance. And then I got promoted, accelerated promotion from Lance Bombardier to a sergeant in about, it was a period of about 5.5 years.
Okay.
And then the next promotion stage was I bypassed staff sergeant, and I was then accelerated promotion again to warrant officer. And then I was appointed regimental quartermaster sergeant, up to retirement, and I retired after 22 years service in 1987. And then following on from that, then I became a civilian. And during the period my children were growing up, as a family now is that my son followed my footstep, literally. We're both gunners by profession, and now he is a staff officer at the rank of brigadier, but his story will be told by himself.